incident that took place in Mangalore, where in a convent there was they had a visitor from Germany, and the lady was in the kitchen talking to the kitchen girl. She didn't know anything other than her Konkani and the little local language Tulu. But sometime soon, all the sister heard them talking and laughing loudly. So when they went, they're quiet. Went out again, they were laughing and talking to each other. So this is the situation for us in every time, that it is not the language itself that's important, that the way, the body language, and we communicate, and the cultures can come together. So remember that we live in a world.
Father, can I intervene? Father, can I intervene?
Yes, sir.
Sister Gloria, I think you are presenting something there. Sister Gloria, you are presenting something. Sister Gloria. Sister Gloria, can you hear me? Sister Gloria, can you hear me? Sister Gloria, just press on that stop presenting. Press on that stop presenting. Okay, thank you. Over to you, Father. Sorry for the intervention.
Yeah. We live in a world in which there are millions of people of diverse national, ethnic, religious, and linguistic backgrounds. They practice, enjoy, and share their culture. Amongst these elements of diversities, linguistic background is considerably important. Linguistic is the study of language. According to the definition, language is a system of communication consisting of sounds, words, and grammar, or the system of communication used by people of a particular country or profession. Language is crucially important in knowledge acquisition. Knowledge is understanding of or information about a subject which has been obtained by experience or study. Three things are important: perception, reason, and language. None of the three may exist without the presence of at least one of the other: perception, reason, and language. Language is more important than perception in our acquisition of knowledge, because people who speak different languages perceive the world differently, since languages sway people's thought processes. Language is not just a means of communication. It has impact on our culture and even on our thought processes. During the last century, language was seen by various linguists and anthropologists as being more significant than it is in carving out our perception. This is because of the idea of linguistic determinism, which states that our thoughts are completely limited by our language. Indo-European and the Indian languages show the structural differences between these languages and how they connote a different thought and logic. For instance, comparison of colors is used in different cultures as positive expression of thoughts. We say green is peace. There's a perception that is given in the language, given a substantial thought. For example, in India, the saffron color is considered orange, a pink blend, relates to color of the cassocks of the Hindu holy men. The other Islamic religion uses green. North America saffron represents shade of purple, golden yellow, and slightly different color used in different other senses. The example illustrates that different regions in the world are dissimilar in the view of things and the manifestation of their ideas regarding color, thought, and other awareness. Language, some scholars accept that it is a universal set of knowledge, into which we must first translate that we observe before we can interpret and understand it. That is to say, the concept of knowledge is carried by words together with their definitions. They argue that they can know neither the word book means what it means, nor it exactly corresponds to if we do not have previously thought what it is. Importance of obtaining knowledge through language rather than perception is proven here. Let us imagine that a person does not know any kind of language. That is, he can perceive the world. How can you expect a person to describe what a book is? It is not possible. He would start making some signs, some gestures, but it just would confuse you. If another person, however, tells you in your language what book is, you will immediately understand what he is talking about. Using perceptions not always help. As it is said earlier, neither perception exists without knowledge, nor does knowledge exist without perception. Every living thing in the world has its own way of communicating, but only humans have developed a language which is more than a set of pre-arranged signals or symbols. Our ancestors were probably speaking millions of years ago, but with a similar vocabulary and almost no grammar. Languages have been developing and changing from back, and nowadays there are about 5,000 spoken languages, living languages you can say, in the world. Every language has its own vocabulary, idioms, proverbs, and expressions. In some languages, there are words that are spelled and pronounced in exactly the same way, but have different meanings. For example, hat in Turkish and hat in English. Both words are spelled and pronounced the same way, but they have different meanings. Hat in English means headdress that protects the head from bad weather. Hat in Turkish means a line that provides communication through telephones, telegraph, or television. As an example shows, different groups of people have different understanding of certain words. When somebody says the word to a Turkish and an English guy, they would understand it in their own language. Another example is Bulgarian Baba and Turkish Baba. It means grandmother and father respectively. Both examples show that when you speak a different language, you see a different meaning in a world. There are some specific proverbs that can be understood differently in different languages. Diversity in national, ethnic, religious, and linguistic backgrounds of people have resulted in miscellaneous cultures, nations, and languages. All of these elements are important to people. Billions of people in our world speak thousands of languages. People from different parts of the world have different understanding of the world. An Asian will have different thoughts about life than South American, for instance. The two persons and the two perceptive world different than each other. Culture and languages have influence on the way of people thinking, whereas perception does not. It is said that perception of a person is less important than a person's language when he is acquiring knowledge. Subject in a sentence is indispensable for Europeans, but some people do not need a subject to understand the meaning of a sentence, as they view in the world differently than each other. When a friend makes you close your eyes and gives you an object and wants you to tell what the object is, however, it does not allow you to use your senses other than touch. You cannot really recognize the object, can you? You will immediately identify the object when your friend says it is an apple. Let us say again, language is superior to perception. As it is mentioned, people who are speaking different languages have different outlook on vocabulary, use of other people. Their language influences them on their worldview. It is a disputable issue of discussion for humans, but big portion of world admits the superiority of language on perception in acquiring the knowledge. Now we go to the word culture. Culture refers to a group or community which shares common experiences that shape the way its members understand the world. It includes groups that are born into, such as race, national origin, gender, class, or religion. It can also include a group we join or become part of. For example, it is possible to acquire a new culture by moving to a new country or region, by a change of any or economic status, or by becoming disabled. When we think of culture this way, we realize we all belong to many cultures at once. Culture is a strong part of people's lives. Each one of us have been brought up in a particular culture and we adhere to it, we remain strong with it, and we want to remain in it. Culture influences the views, the values, the humor, the hopes, the loyalties, and their worries too, and fears. So when you are working with people and building relationships with them, particularly when we work in a mission station or with people other than of our language, it helps to have some perceptive and understanding of their culture. Culture involves a lot of customs too. For example, there are weddings. You see the ceremonies that all have come from the culture. We have the baths, we have the flowers, the food that is served. There are the traditions which people do not want to break it. And all this is contained in the culture and the custom, and people live with it. And when we mix together and come together with these customs, we understand how enriching each custom, each culture is. But as we explore culture, it is also important to remember how much we have in common. People see the world very differently, but they know what it is like to wake up in the morning and look forward to the adventure that of the day. We are all human beings. We all love deeply, want to learn, have hopes and dreams, and have experienced pain and fear. At the same time, we can't pretend our cultures and differences don't matter. They do matter for us when we mix with the other and when we work with the other. Or when we live in a community, we know our cultures are different, our languages are different. We can't gloss over differences and pretend they don't exist. They do exist. And we wish sometimes we all of us could be alike. And we can't pretend that discrimination doesn't exist. In reality, we get practical information about how to understand culture, establish relationships with people from cultures different from our own. But first, it is important to remember that everyone has an important viewpoint and a role to play when it comes to culture. A person does not have to be an expert to build relationships with people different from their own. An individual need not have to have a degree to learn to become sensitive to the cultural issues. And one doesn't have to be a social worker to know how culture has affected our lives. Understanding of culture is necessary to build a community. If we are working with someone, we must know what their culture is, what their background is. We may not learn their language, yet we know they're expressing something special and we ought to understand and learn it. The world is becoming increasingly diverse and includes people of many religions, languages, economic groups, and other cultural groups. It is becoming clear that in order to build communities that are successful at improving conditions and resolving problems, we need to understand and appreciate many cultures. Establish relationships with people from cultures other than our own, and build strong alliances with different cultural groups. In order to build communities that are powerful enough to attain significant change, we need large number of people working together. If cultural groups join forces, they will be more effective in reaching common goals than if each group operates in isolation. Each cultural group has a unique strength and perspectives that larger community can benefit from. We need a wide range of ideas, customs, and wisdom to solve problems and enrich community life. Bringing non-mainstream groups into the center of civic activity can provide fresh perspectives and shed new light on tough problems. Understanding cultures will help us overcome and prevent racial and ethnic divisions. Racial and ethnic divisions result in misunderstandings, loss of opportunities, and sometimes violence. Racial and ethnic conflicts drain communities of financial and human resources, as you see it in our own country. They distract cultural groups from resolving the key issues they have in common. People from different cultures have to be included in decision-making processes in order to program or policy made effective. This is what we need our communities to include everyone of different culture together to understand the basic issues. The people affected by decisions have to be involved in formulating solutions. It is a basic democratic principle. Without the input and support of all groups involved, decision-making implementation becomes very, very difficult for us. An appreciation of cultural diversity is necessary for us. For instance, we live here, we have our own culture. People coming from Middle India or Northeast or the Central India, they have different culture. We have to integrate and really enjoy what the deep knowledge they have, deep cultural background they have. For example, research has shown that students' cultures are understood and appreciated by teachers, and students do better in school. Students feel more accepted when their culture is understood and accepted. They build a community. They become more successful in their studies and also sharing their mainstream idea and their cultural background with each one of us. As you think about diversity, it may be helpful to envision a kind of cultural community we all want to build. In order to set some goals related, building a relationship between cultures, resolving differences, or building diverse coalition, it helps to have vision of the kind of cultural community you hope for. People have different views on what a multicultural society or community should be like or should not be. In the past few decades, there have been a lot of discussion about what it means to live and work together in a society that is diverse as ours. People struggle with different visions, a fair, equitable, moral, and harmonious society. Here, Pope Francis speaks beautifully in the context of education. He said there are three languages: language of the head, heart, and hand. Head to think, heart to feel, and hand to do. But there are three ways of communication, he says. First and most important, he says, it is dialogue. It is necessary in the forming of others. And secondly, it leaves the form to form formators. And thirdly, it builds into them the presence of God. Now, what it means by dialogue is that I live with the person of another culture, I attract the culture of the other person, and I give to the other my culture. It is not just talking. Talking doesn't matter. What's important is I share what I have within me, my personality, which is my culture, with the other. And that is what the Pope tells us that we have to do, mixing up culture, tradition, and that's a dialogue. Now, how to build up a community? We have seen the language, we heard of the culture and traditions. Both are important in building up a community. First, what we need is welcome everyone. In order to people to commit into working from diversity, a person needs to feel that they are included, and this is important. We welcome each person. Nobody can remain separated from us. We cannot segregate or divide our groups. Each person needs to feel welcomed and feel at home from the diverse community. Each person's culture we ought to know. Secondly, accepting each person in their diversity. We know they are different, we accept them. Shaming people for being in a privileged position only causes people to feel bad. We do not make people feel ashamed. It doesn't empower them to take action to change. People are more likely to change when they are appreciated and receive that appreciation, that they are liked and accepted. Thirdly, treat everyone equally. All are equal. There is no superior and inferior in a community. Although every person is unique, some of us have been mistreated or ill-treated or oppressed because we are member of a particular group. If we ignore these present day and historical differences, we may fail to understand the needs of these individuals. Often people are afraid that recognizing differences will divide people from each other. Fourthly, what you need is live with a spirit of hope. People have a difficult time functioning at all when they feel that there is no hope to change. We look for the future with a hope and aspiration, expectation of something different, something fantastic, something beautiful. When we present diversity issues, you can always say like, this is an excellent opportunity to build up our strength within the organization. There is no reason for us to show differences, show our difficulties. We are all one. Next is building up a team spirit. One will be more effective if you have a group of people around you that works together closely. People often try to go alone, but it is here then we lose sight. We work together, we work as a team, and then we are perfect. Sixth, we have recognized the good in other people. Each one has something good and positive. We have to recognize them and accept them. Therefore, in summary, what we have about diversity is important. How to begin envisioning your ideal diverse community and make it one singular unit, a goal to build up a new body, a new spirit, new community. In working towards the diverse organization of the community, what we need is how to be aware of our own culture. We know our culture well and build relationship with the other, sharing their culture and ideology. Each of us can build the kind of communities that we need, we dream of. In our families, organization, institutions, neighborhood, we can remain what we want to remain, isolated, but then we will be broken, alone, and different. Now, what's the link between the culture and language? This is the next point we see. Language and culture are intertwined. Intertwined means they are mixed. Language and culture, they go together. A particular language usually points up to a specific group of people. We identify them like Andhra, that's a Telugu, or Tamilians, or Malayalis, or a Kannadigas, or a Konkanis. We identify them. When you interact with another language, it means that you're also interacting with the culture they speak in that language. You cannot understand one's culture without assessing its language directly. When you learn a new language, it is not only involves learning the alphabet, the word arrangements, and the rules of grammar, but we are also learning the specific society's customs and behavior. When learning or teaching a language, it is important that the culture where the language belongs is referred, but language is very much ingrained in the culture. Language and culture go together. The phrase language is culture and culture is language. This is the term that we often use. It is because the two have homologous or the complex relationship. Language and culture developed together and influenced each other as they evolved. If culture is a consequence of the interactions of human, its acts of communications are their cultural manifestations. Culture is not learned by imitation, but by oral instruction. There could be some imitation if the learner is still young, when the language, methods of social control, products, techniques, and skills are explained. Spoken language often refers to a vast quantity of usable information for the community. It helps us to quicken the new skill acquisition and the techniques. Culture unifies community, although there is a diversity within this unity. I hold to my own culture and I accept other culture. The unity is there between cultures, but I am singular in my own culture. For example, the speech used by older generation could be different from the one that used by the today's younger generation. In the school, we see the differences, what the teacher speaks and what the students will speak. Further, different groups may speak one language, but there would be subsets used by different groups of people. There could be a slight difference in languages used by a professor or the young office worker. Language is used in different ways, and broadly, the linguistic varieties could be categorized into geographical, social, and functional values. These factors lead to the formation of dialects that add diversity to the language. Now we come to something very concrete. Now, in our situation, linguistic diversity in India, this is what is important for us to understand. India has become a land of many tongues, many languages, and it's called as a tower of veritable languages or museum of languages. In 1950, the states of India were reorganized on linguistic basis. As a result, the domiciles of a particular state speak of a particular language. The Constitution of India has approved 22 different languages. In India, we find a number of languages. It's called a Tower of Babel at times because we speak so differently. The multilingual nature of the country affects every aspect of our national life. But linguistic diversity was not a great problem in the past, since Sanskrit in the beginning, later Persian, and during last 100 years, English served as the link language. At present, the language problem has become so acute, it has posed major threat to the national integration. Since often linguistic tensions are being manifested in the borders which are bilingual. For example, in Belgaum, we can see the tug of war between Marathi and Kannada, Assam between Bengalis and Assamese, and the Hindi has been recognized as a national language, but hostilities are there from the south. Language has become the dividing system too. What are the causes of linguism? What are the causes? I'll give you some points here, only 5. First, love of literature. The literature makes a person love the language. For example, in Karnataka state, the Kannada is a language that holds people together. In Tamil Nadu, the Tamil is a language that holds them. Or in Kerala, the Malayalam that holds them together. That is, linguistic groups are built up because of what they write, what they give. Secondly, the geographical causes. Geographical conditions also promote linguism. People living in a particular locality to speak the same language. This promotes local identity and distinctness among people. Thirdly, historical causes. That is, the linguism in India is a byproduct of India's struggle for national freedom. The leaders of freedom movement criticized the British system and dividing the country by cutting across linguistic boundaries. Rather, they pleaded for the division of India into different provinces or linguistic lines. In 1956, this reorganization did take place. There are the political causes which brings linguism. Parochial political parties are built up, and linguistic feelings have come so strongly with the election. Psychological causes that people are so attached to languages. I am so important, for me the language is so important, I love my language. So what we need is the diverse languages to learn different languages, then it only something is important for us. I know it is taking long time, but I'll give you a little story which is given by Rajneesh. There is a family of rats. There was a papa, mama, uncle, auntie, baba, baby, 6 of them. So one day the rats said, let's go for a picnic. They went. And they went and they had a nice time. They got sandwiches and everything, nice, the soft drinks, and they ate. Suddenly the papa rat realized there was a cat behind the bush. So he didn't know quietly, didn't want to tell anyone and panic. So went behind a bush and started barking like a dog. The cat got scared and ran away. Then came back, he said, quick, we'll move from here, there are dangers. And then explained, this is what happened. I barked like a dog and the cat ran away. What did you learn from this? They all said, no, we are dangerous, we have enemies, and so on. The papa rat said, this is what you have to learn. Always know a second language. Know always a second language. This is what we all need in our life. Now, what is the consequence of linguism? First is increasing rationalism and parochialism. This is what we are so much attached to a particular state. I belong to that ideology. I don't want to leave it, which is not good. Different linguistic groups remain together as concentrated. Secondly, formation of regional political parties. This has ruined the unity of the country. Regional parties have kept the state together and they held it together. Persecution of linguistic minorities, third point. The linguistic minorities have been persecuted. Those who are not attached to the mainstream have been sidelined. They are not given the job opportunities in the state. They have found difficulties. They are struggling. Fourthly, there's a demand for a separate status. That is, they want to be called a different state. And this is what happened. On linguistic basis, and then the difficulties have come. Even in Karnataka, we see so many differences that have come. They're looking for differences. Fifth, it is erosion of national feeling. What we need is the national feeling of togetherness. The erosion that we are dragged out of it, we move away. The national feeling is gone because of the linguistic basis. And sixth, interstate border dispute. They want this part is mine and that part is yours, and the struggle is going on. And this has brought division in so many areas between Karnataka and Maharashtra and Goa and elsewhere too. What are the remedial measures that we have? First, development of a national language. A unitary linked language is essential. So far it has been English, and English has been commonly accepted by all. Even the new education policy looking for a single identity, but they say it is Hindi or Sanskrit, but it is any language that is given to us is important. That we need the development of a national language which makes a link and holds together all the states. Secondly, development of a common script. We need a script which is common. And say like in Karnataka, Kannada is a common script for everybody. Whichever language you use, that we have the common script of Kannada. Same thing in Tamil Nadu that they have, or in Kerala, the Malayalam script. Ban on political parties and other organizations. The state party should be banned or kept it at a low key. And the organization, they divide on linguistic basis that should be removed. That's why the government took a great effort to do it in the past. Now we see briefly with the cultural diversities in India. India is a pluralistic and multicultural society where there are many faiths and belief systems, regulate the life of individuals. And India is not a Hindu society, or even though Hinduism is a major religion, it's a part of a globe where many religious traditions, both indigenous and foreign, have established over the years. We have Buddhism, Sikhism, Bhakt cult, Sufi tradition, Christianity, and many other religions. Each religion has the gurus and the guides that they have. We have the scriptures that guide us and they give us the strength and support, and we cannot be sidelined from them. The caste system that has been there, it has ruined the country. But what we need is to integrate the whole caste into the mainstream and hold them together and bring what I said in the beginning, the equality. India is one of the most religiously and ethnically diverse nation in the world, with some of the most deeply religious societies and cultures. Religion plays therefore an important role. Now, cultural elements of diversity are the four main things. First, it's a language which makes the cultural diversity. That is, there are the large number of languages. Second, the festivals we have. Each religion has its own festival and everyone seems to accept it. Nobody is running away from it. This is the great beauty of India today. The festivals are accepted by all, celebrated in common. Thirdly, religion, it is there, maybe sometime there is some opposition, but mostly it is expected or tolerated and understood by others. That is, they have the blend of nationalism. The religion has become more nationalized and that becomes a cultural element within it. And finally, race. India is home to major races in the world. These races have mixed with other over hundreds of years to give the present situation. Now, a few minutes, just to give me another 5 minutes or so before we come to discussion, challenges in the religious communities, what we have. That's what I would like to spend little time, and I would like you to think about it, our challenge in the religious communities. We are not away from linguistic and cultural differences. Now, all of us religious pass through a similar situation in adjusting culturally and linguistically. Even Jesus went through similar situation when he built the early community of disciples. Jesus called the disciples. There was a special call he gave to his 12 members. They came from different backgrounds, some of them fishermen, some of them freedom fighters, belonging to the zealot community. Matthew was a tax collector. Some of them were ordinary farmers. They came from different backgrounds. In reality, they were a mixture of diverse groups, but Jesus held them together, such a group of persons. Culturally, they held them together and made them one group, one community. When church was extended after Jesus went up to heaven, then the Pharisees joined, like Paul. There were others came from, like Timothy, from Greek background, and Luke. Thus, Christianity became a group of different sorts of people. When it reached Rome, the other cultures also integrated with it, so built a large community. But theologically, God always intended man to live in a community. He calls the first created persons to live in a community, a family. He called Israelites to be a community, nation, loyal to him. God manifests himself as a family in the Trinity. He calls the church as a community of different persons. In New Testament, Jesus formed a community of those he called. He called us to follow him. He called each one by name and showed that each one is very important. He continued the community after the resurrection. As we study the religious life in church today, in the context of the common living of religious persons, you studied community life so much. What is community life here? We have to see. Community life is an essential element of religious life as it is found in the church today. It is necessary and basic from which we cannot escape. It is not easy to practice fully either, and at times the things are very challenging for us. It is necessary for the religious persons to face the reality of such life. From human point of view, it is not easy to build a community and live as a community together. I am speaking the human practical point of view. Why? First, religious come from different backgrounds. You check a community, we see we come from different background, cultural, social, educational, linguistic. Second, modern society lays importance to individual freedom and responsibility. It is not easy for us to have that at all times to give individual freedom. There is certain amount of subordination is needed. Third, Religious feel threatened, insecure when they do not attain their aims. For instance, I studied so much, I am not given the importance. They feel that they are lost, they are threatened. There is fourth, there is the possibility of lack of friendship and trust. I do not have enough trust. I don't get enough trust from the community members or sometimes even from the superior. That's how the feeling comes. It's not necessarily real, but the feeling. And finally, more humorously, it is difficult to form a community and it cannot be a family because we are all from the same sex. So that is a difficulty that we all have. The response of to this is to transform these obstacles and to build a community. And we overcome the cultural and linguistic differences and make use of the individual talents. We have the individual talents, we make use of them and not be threatened by another person's presence. We make use of the personal freedom to build up the community. And ultimately, it becomes make us persons as contemplatives in action to find God in all things and all persons. That's the way we have the full community and potential living. Now, I'll give you the definition of it. A religious community is said to be a group of persons united to God in Jesus Christ, from whom follows the sisterly communion or brotherly communion with one another, a communion strengthened and made apostolically efficacious by a bond of obedience. So this contains therefore several elements. First, union with Christ, which is a brotherly communion or sisterly communion, apostolic orientation, because we have the apostolate, which is important, ratified by obedience. We have the superior who stands in the place of God and we obey. That we, within the cultural and linguistic differences, we have some authority in place of God who directs us and guides us. We live in it. Jesus called his disciples in the community to share his vision and mission. He selected a band of people, trained them on the mission. His call was special and unique. The moment Jesus called, they left everything and they bound themselves with him. They leaned on him, they stayed with him, they understood him, they went along with him. He loved them, he took care of them, he punished them, he scolded them, he loved them. He washed their feet and said, "You are one." Even one who was going to betray him, his feet he washed. He built a community, he held them together. Persons from different background, he bound them together. They remained with him, they built a new life with him, and that new life continued. Their unity was strong. The built was so strong that did not bother about outside the elements and dangers. Even Thomas says when Jesus was going to Bethany, let us also go and die with him, because they were seeking to kill him there. That much of unity they had. Even after the resurrection, though they ran away, they came back and they stayed together. Jesus trained them, he held them together. So the last point I will give you, what is necessary for us to build up into a community, keeping away the differences and build this linguistic and the cultural unity. This applies not merely for the religious communities. This applies to everyone, even the lay persons. This implies to all, and that is what we understand. First, we need is mutual trust. We need to trust. This is the hallmark of a community. One can rely on the other. I can trust on the other. A superior can say, "I trust my subject." The subject can say, "I trust my superior." In the family, the father can say, "I trust my wife and my children." Everyone, there's a mutual trust and understanding. It is an element of give and take. I give and take. The situation of understanding of encouragement. I encourage them and support them and give them what I can, receive from them what I have, what they can give without fear. Secondly, what you need is friendship. Friendship is a bond that the community should have. It is that Aristotle says it is the soul of two people mingled into one. It is where the community is defined as a dynamic, supportive, and encouraging. I accept the other because of the strength I have and the support I can get through the friendship. Thirdly, that I belong to a community, that as members we belong, that is a belongingness. I am not isolated, but I go and unite myself and live with the community and stay with them. The member of a community should feel wanted. When they go out, they say, I'm wanted in this community. They love me. I want to come back to it. That's also in the family. The father and mother should feel the children are wanted. They don't want to stay out. They want to come together. There's a companionship bond, and there's a love that is shown is necessary. Fourthly, there is the spirit of understanding that we need. The understanding with each other and mutual help. I understand the other. Even if the person is wrong or does some mistake, I understand. I can overlook it, I can live with it, I can accept it. Within the cultural and the other differences, we accept them and we have the way to help them and support them. Fifth, it's motivated by apostolic zeal. That is, the apostolic zeal is something essential for us. We live for the apostolate. That is where is given to us through our charism. That our society, our congregation guides us and leads us to it. We are there. We have the apostolic zeal to build it up, and it is the motivation that we have towards it. We need 6 days, the community discernment. We decide together, superior with the members and members of the superior. That does not mean, mind you, that whatever the elder says has to be accepted. There are certain things the superior may not be able to communicate. We discern, we pray, we decide. But certain says, well, this is certain difficulty that is, which I can't communicate, and we how to do this, we accept it. And that is where important is the respect to the dissenter. There are some persons in the community may disagree. We respect. Like Thomas at the 10 disciples were there. They did not say, I don't believe that the Lord is risen. They respected him. They waited for him. And when Jesus came again, he brought them together, and Thomas accepted easily. The respect was shown by the disciples was marvelous. And this is the respect that we have to show. In our community, we always have persons who show that dissent, they do not agree with us. We have to accept them. Then as community members, everyone needs the identity. I belong to this group. I belong to this community. I am part of the community. That is what is needed for us. Lastly, what we need is in this mixing up together, building of the community, for us as human persons, the union with Christ. Christ is the goal. He is the one which builds the unity and holds us together. Therefore, what is important for us is unity, togetherness, and the trust. So, dear friends, as we come to the end of this talk here, what is needed here to understand? Diversity is fundamental aspect of the society. We are different. We are unique. We have the personal independence, and therefore of our communities, workplaces, schools, and early learning services, everything there, we enter into it with the concept of personal identity. Culture is one of the significant contributors to diversity. It gives us a culture. I have something of my own and I manifest it. And for us in the religious life, we need that unity to mingle, to mix up, to build together, to form a union. That is the life that we need. So then today, as we study on this cultural and linguistic diversity, let us leave out our language, our culture. We hold it within us, but come towards the union of it. This is what Jesus showed in his life, and this is what we need it in our society today. We see in the Indian situation the differences that are taking place, the diversity that is there. We play our role to build that unity and show that understanding with each other. This is our prayer for each one of us. May God bless us and bring us in this unity. So thank you, one and all, for the patient listening. And if you have any questions, you can unmute your mic and ask. Thank you so much. Okay.
Good evening, Father.
Yes. Yeah.
This is Belfit.
Tell me.
Thank you very much for your wonderful systematic presentation of the importance of diversity, both in
Yeah.
language and culture, and how it plays a vital role in the religious life also. It was wonderful presentation. My intervention here is when you explained the story about rat and cat,
Yeah.
there you used one sentence also. Hindi is rising as the national language.
Yeah.
According to the Constitution of India, we don't have any particular national language.
You don't have. Yeah.
Uh,
That's great.
so
What
in that,
I'll explain. Okay, you tell me. You finish. I'll tell you.
in this context, now as we know the trilingual policy of the central government, especially in the new education policy,
Yeah.
they are imposing. That is what is understood and they experienced by the South people, especially in Karnataka.
Yeah.
Also, we see the acts against Hindi, and also in Tamil Nadu, the protest against imposition of Hindi. How do you view it? Is it destroying the diversity of the nation, or it is fighting for their own right? How do you view this struggle, Father?
Okay. Now, look, I'm a man of education because I work, as you know, for the Karnataka Regional Commission for Education. I am much involved in education. For me, the government has a three-language formula that they gave, and they're pushing towards Hindi or Sanskrit. What to look is, yesterday what I heard a webinar, they want to disintegrate Macaulay's policy where he made English compulsory. That is the government ideology. Let me see what is language, why language is needed for us. It is what we need is a linked language. Linked language to understand. What I said, the story of the rat, it is more a humorous way. Learn a new language. I have my own language. I learn one more. That is what I say. But I don't say the Hindi should be the universal language. No, I am not for that. The Tamil Nadu is against, Karnataka against, Kerala is against, Andhra is against, and Assam is against. Everybody is there. They're struggling with that and trying to integrate. That's why the government says in 15 years we'll see, or 20 years. So they want to see it gradually, and that's why they put Sanskrit, which is not easy, and they've talked by less than 1% of people. So in this situation, what we need for the growth and development, why education policy is to bring about development, we need a linked language. So that's why I say the community, we may come from different languages. We have to communicate and integrate, and what we need a common language to talk to and link together. So this is a difficult task that we have, and each one of us is a challenge that is given to us to build that link. So in the national education policy, most of us don't agree with it, what is given, but we are going on because the government is pushing and pushing and pushing this. And they say it is the ultimate, from the top, the word will come. People want it. So that is what the difficulty is for us. So let us slowly we work together, and there's a strong undercurrent that is working strongly to keep away this single language formula to three or multiple language formula that is there. And what is good is with the education policy is it is going back to the mother tongue. That is the good. That stress with the mother tongue that is there. At least up to the 5th standard, the student studies have to be mother tongue. Am I clear, Farrell?
Thank you very much, Father.
Father Ashwin Paul.
Yeah.
I'm a former student of yours. You were my principal in SJCC.
Oh, thank you.
After Father Andrade, 91 batch BCom. Father, on dwelling on the language matter, I did a lot of business in China.
Yeah.
China was highly successful in this one language. In a common denominator language, they adopted Mandarin, Putonghua. That brought about Mao Zedong's time. They brought about the people becoming one, because that was a common binding force. So the government being, stressing a bit on Hindi and all these things is not out of place. Because English did pull us to where we are in development, maybe in software and in getting our freedom movement. But eventually, India should also have a bit of an ideology of its own.
Yeah,
I feel that three language policy is something which is very, very beneficial in the long run for the country.
in the long run, the three language formula would be better.
Maybe
See,
25
I'm
years
coming
down the line,
from,
25 or 30
yeah,
years down the
I
line.
tell you, I'm coming from a place called Mangalore. By the time
Father.
you are 12, we learn 6 languages.
Great, Father.
And we have to be fluent with each. So that is
Yeah,
needs
Tulu,
really for us for
Konkani,
communication. So
Tulu,
three
Konkani,
languages.
all. Yes, Father. And the diversity in the and unity. A good example will be your experience in Radio Vatican.
Yeah,
Indian
yeah,
father,
I can.
6th language from Mangalore, doing in Vatican in Italian. I think you should share some thought on that.
Okay, to tell you Vatican Radio, I worked for 5 years. We were there in our community. We were 27 Jesuits, and about it was the infirmary. There were another 25 who were sick. There were about 45, 48 people in the community. We were from 19 provinces with the different languages, and we lived happily. In the radio, we broadcasted 45 different languages. There are 300 workers working in the Vatican radio. We were 45 languages that were being broadcasted, and Indian, there were 5 languages that were used there or broadcasted, where 15 of us worked in the Indian language system. So that was fantastic, and we were so happy. If nothing, we said buongiorno, buonasera. We are very happy to meeting and talking to each other. So that was a good communication that we had, and very, very, very happy. And I feel that should go on. I think my 5 years, we never saw a fight. Nothing. The languages, we are so happy each one. We tried to make. If nothing, we said to the French, say, merci beaucoup, so it's finished. That is, something was there in each language we could speak and learn something. That was the blessing we had.
Even our Mar Papa is the Holy Pope is also a good example. Argentinian, Italian descent. So he also comes with multiple language background.
Yeah, each from the language back. To have all information of all, to be in a big office like the Pope, they should know at least 8 different languages fluently. That's one of the conditions, mind you. If you want to be a Pope, learn as many languages as possible. Or if you want to remain in Rome.
And the other thing is the language Jesus spoke was Aramaic.
Yeah.
The Pashita Amanya, the Bible of the Orthodox comes from there.
But he knew Hebrew also. Anyway.
Yeah, because by geographical reasons. So a lot of things come into conflict. Even he was a multilingual.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Father.
So, thank you. So, any other question?
Excuse me, Father.
Yeah.
This is just in response to Mr. Ashwin Paul, who intervened just before.
Yeah.
And he was mentioning he hoped for that the three language policy will be beneficial, at least in future, he was telling.
Yeah.
Just as we were following in the webinar also, the language is for communication. It's a linking factor.
Linking
So
right.
In that way, I know my mother language, mother tongue. I am very fluent in that. I am fluent in English also, which is a universal language with which I can communicate to the majority of the world, maybe.
Yes.
And more than that, if I go, for example, he was having business with China so far, and he supposed to understand and a little bit at least communicate in Mandarin.
Yeah.
If you were in Italy, so you are supposed to communicate in Italian.
Italian,
So
right.
as far as we go, we have some business there. We have some connection in some places. We have to learn the language of the land and we communicate.
Right.
So in that way only, we are questioning why there is imposition of the third language, which is not such universal. So that is what we are questioning here.
Yeah. See, 3 language formula is what is given here. One is the link language that is given, maybe English. Hindi is the language spoken by majority. Third is your regional language is there, whatever the regional language. And for us, the people like some of us have to learn more than one language. This is necessary. Your mother tongue is essential. Now, why is the language important? It is the link. It's the manifestation of the culture. It's a holding of group together. It is the acceptance of the other or integrating with the other. In our, say, I'm a religious. So in our community, suppose we are 10 people. We come from 5 different languages. In Rome, we were how many Jesuits? As Jesuits, we were 6 Jesuits were there. We were coming from one Tamil Nadu, one Kerala, one Mangalore, one Goa, one Hindi, and another one that is the second one also Goan. So we were there together. They were asking us, Simon, what language you speak? Because each one were strong in our own languages. But they said English is a common language. That's what we managed. We talk. Now Italian, in Italy, we had to speak. That's what we did. So that was what is necessary. Language is for linking. The place where you are there, you learn the language of the place. That is what is needed. It is no shame for us to learn a new language, which is important. It is a strength. Some are gifted with languages. Some may not be that gifted. But language helps us. Language makes us grow. Like the Papa Rat said, learn a new language. That is what is important for us. And that will give us the link. That is make us communicate. That is what is needed for us. And for Jesus, he knew 3 languages. That was there. He may not have known Greek at all, but Hebrew, the local languages he knew, and he was able to communicate with them because he had to study scripture in the synagogue, and their scriptures were in Hebrew.
Thank you, Father.
Yeah.
Father, I am here, Rosemary.
Yes, sister, tell me. Hi.
I'm in the next group. I was just listening to your talk. I thank that too. Ashwin and Belfit had asked beautiful questions which given more light to your talk. I just want to ask you one question from your presentation. Love for the literature.
Yeah.
You have mentioned love for literature. Can you say something more about that love for literature? Usually we make minimum trouble to learn other language. So can you a little bit more, on that?
Yeah, thank you, sister, for the question. See, what has happened in particular region, the love for the regional language has become very strong. And say, like I take Karnataka, for example. We like to read in Kannada. You take a simple example. I think you come from Kerala. When you see a board that is written in 3 languages, Malayalam, Kannada, and English, what is the one you read first? It's Malayalam. I will read first in Kannada. Then comes English. Okay, that is a normal way. The bus boards, when we read, first we read our own mother tongue. Then we read the others. See, there is a deep attachment, cultural attachment towards a language, my personal language, and I keep with it. And I want to live with it because that is enriching us. Because a language, a story, a novel written in that language enriches us. And we see, back of our mind, we read what is going on within my own actions, within that novel. I make it part and parcel of my life. That is the beauty of a regional language. Maybe you say today I can read Hindi very slowly, but I don't. Because we were taught very little in the school. Only 3 years I learned, but I can read still. I can read the boards and all that. But I don't have that attachment to Hindi. But if it comes to Kannada, I can read immediately. Or if it comes to Konkani, which is written in Kannada, I can read. English, of course, is the language within I grow up. I read the novels and all that. So also Kannada. So the language integration is there within. Because language gives us the cultural outlook. Language builds us up, tells us that we belong to it. That I have a background, I got a unity there, I want to live with it. So that is the beauty of a language. Makes us united. So in a community, we may be person coming from 3 different groups. When three of us join together of the same language, we speak that language. And that's where we communicate better. So language is for communication better. So suppose now the three come from, say, Orissa. They stay together and they will talk their language because they will communicate. If you communicate in English, maybe I may make grammatical mistakes too. That's it. But in my language, even if I make mistake, others will understand. So that is the language which is imbibed into our blood, you can say, because it is culture. So the culture is inherent, language is communicative. So the two things are united, intertwined, but culture is part and parcel of our life. Language is the communicative mode. It is like the brain we have is the culture, hands we have the communication. So the Pope says, use your head, heart, and hand. Three languages: head to think, heart to feel, hand to communicate. This is what we do, and this is what we need in our communication.
Thank you, Father. Thank you.
I think it's late. I think late for your supper also.
Yeah.
I think where is Sally? I don't know. So she may come up. So
Father, I have one question to ask.
Yeah.
Is it culture superior than, is there any difference, another culture is superior than another culture, and our behavior when they say, no, this is coming from that culture, is there any influence? They say that this is in their blood, they say, no, whether it is good or bad, is there any influence regarding our character by the culture?
I couldn't follow the question. Sally, could you follow?
Is there any culture superior than the other culture? And when they say about the behavior or the character of the person,
Okay.
they say this is in their blood.
Now, I can say, for an individual person, his culture is the best. He is superior than anybody else. No culture we can is superior. See, a culture we can say is rich. That is different. So there is a culture we can say is in the olden days, the Greek culture was supposed to be superior culture. That was a great culture that they had. In India, we can say my own culture is the best. I won't accept the others are good. Each one has its good element in it. So each culture is important. We cannot say one culture is superior, other one is down. But then each culture has its own richness and shortcoming. So we take that, and therefore it's an individual decision that makes us persons understand or integrate ourselves into that culture. Okay.
Yeah. But thank you, Father. I think you have one more question.
Okay.
Father, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Am I audible?
Yeah. Tell me.
In our pastoral field, how can we venture into new mission of building bridges between people from different regions?
Pastoral field.
Yes, Father.
Yeah. We come from different regions. That means that we come from different. Your question is that we come from different regions. How can you enter into the pastoral field, isn't it?
Yes.
Into a particular situation, location. Am I right? What you're saying?
Yes.
Like what I've understood like this. Okay, we are coming from different situation, different regions. Okay, we are going to work in a particular situation. For us, we respect the culture of the place. We don't impose our culture. That's a mistake the British made on India. They imposed a culture on us. They did not respect the local culture. So what we need today is to respect the other. That is what I'm telling the community. We respect the other person, and the persons are important. Then get them to an equality with us. We mingle with them. That's what the Pope says of the dialogue. We dialogue with them, we bring them to us, and we go unto them. We make them, they may be shy. So for instance, when you go to a village, they may have beautiful dance, but they may be shy. Encourage them. Bring out their culture and say, your culture is so nice. And you share yours with them. So I come from a different background. When you go there, that culture becomes very important and necessary for us. So this is the integration that we need. So there is nothing superior. But when we go to a locality, that culture is there, necessary to accept them and live with them.
Thank you.
Yeah, is there anyone who would like to ask any more questions? Is there anyone who would like to ask any more questions before we conclude? I think it's already 7:12. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Father, for this. No, this was one of the current issues that we are, today living, the reality that we are living in today. The diversity in culture and diversity in language. Whenever we talk about diversity, the first thing that is coming to our mind is the culture and language and nothing beyond that. And at the same time, we keep telling that, we belong to a country that celebrates diversity. Okay. And today, because of the diversity, we have problems as well, we have unity. Okay. So thank you so much, Father. It was very, very enriching session. I'm very sure all of them must have enjoyed your talk and had a lot of knowledge. You have touched upon a lot of current scenario of our country. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, guys. God bless you. Bye-bye.
And so, Father, so all of you, we will meet you all next Saturday at the same time. Till then, good night and have a good appetite. Bye-bye, sisters. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.